Let's talk about the race, guys, because this was very eventful. I'm not really sure where to start with this one, honestly.
Gosh,
Go ahead.
You can't start at the start because the finish was just out of control.
Right.
So I think for me, I guess the place to start is, do we like all the green, white checkers?
It was getting pretty frustrating towards the end.
Yeah, I think you like them.
I'm saying I just don't. I think it robs. I know that it gets messy at the end, but just for it to get messy and then end under caution, like in an ARCA race or something, I'm like, I don't like that at all. I'd rather.
So would you rather it end at the right distance and end under caution, or you just want it to keep going?
I just want it to end under green flag, or at least the one lap, get the white flag, and then it. I think it takes a lot away when it just ends under caution.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of this is we are in the entertainment business. I think that I think the traditional me would tell you that I want the race to end at the right distance, whether it's green or caution. But I like the show. I like the fact that the race ended under green flag, and they were competing, and it added all these different elements to the end of the race. It did drag all the slow cars to the front,
which for playoff purposes is amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna have some attaboys for some of these teams.
It drug all the slow cars to the front. They were obviously making a lot more gas than the cars that were running up front. The fact that Joey Logano could run that far, and I saw Chris Gabehart tweet after the race. A fan asked, "Well, how did Joey Logano go that far on fuel?" And Chris Gabehart wrote, "Because he was slow." And I think that it's, you just never know in this sport. I think you just have to keep yourself rolling. You have to keep yourself in contention. I've been on the other side of the fence where they have these rules where you can only do one green, white checker. Well, then somebody will spin somebody out, or something happens, and it ends the same way that it would have if it just ended at the correct distance. So we went away from the green, white checkers unlimited when they had that truck race in St. Louis, and they had all those crashes at the end of the race. But I like it in ending under green, because I think that's what the fans want to see, and you just have these unexpected moments that show up with races ending this way, and now with Logano winning, it kind of turns that whole playoff picture a little bit upside down. But I'm telling you, if one person outside of that top 16 wins, it's really going to get interesting, because of the fact that you have Martin Truex. I feel like he's the only guy that's safe on points.
He's
Ross Chastain, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, and I can't remember who's 16th. But Bubba is out.
Alex Bowman.
Yeah. So Bubba is out by like 51 points. So he's in trouble. And I think from his standpoint, I think he'd like to see his cars run faster. But I think they're capable of buckling down and finding some speed. It's just a matter of those racetracks match up right, because you've got Chicago
variety.
Street Course, you've got Daytona Superspeedway, which they'll run good at. You've got another Richmond race. You've got some very unique racetracks. He'll run good at Michigan. Yeah. So, I think there are some racetracks that are good for him for the rest of the year, but it's a matter of getting into the playoffs and those races that they have leading up to the playoffs.
It's going to be interesting, because we have a good chance that someone else could make that happen, actually, when you look at the variety of racetracks coming up. So you were there, as we talked about firsthand. What do you think as you're watching all of this unfolding? Drivers running out of gas, all these things happening.
Well, first I was trying to see through the waterfall of sweat that was just raining
belly
down.
button.
Like, it was hot. Well, it was cooking. And those drivers, the teams, in the fire suits, everybody, the fans too. Shout out to you guys, because you guys stayed through the weather.
It was
packed out, and even after, it was still packed out. The racing was very interesting, because the strategy started changing so much. And we were sitting there, and I guess it was like 8 of the top 10 were basically running out of gas, and you knew it. And I was talking to a couple of people that I was around. And I'm like, well, the problem is at this point, when you go to the gas, there's not going to be any, now you're so low, there's nothing going to pick up, and that's when they're going to sputter. And then we saw that with Kyle Larson. So the strategy of it, I love, right? It just adds another element. It adds entertainment. It adds drama.
Yes.
But if if Zane Smith would have won, if Corey LaJoie would have won the 14, that would have changed that whole thing already. So we're percolating on disaster.
Well, we thought probably Joey was going to get it. I think we all assumed that he Oh,
he did not.
Oh, he did not.
No,
all
he
right.
didn't.
Well, I thought he had a pretty good shot to get in on a win, but you could tell that he was incredibly relieved in his post-race interview to now have
I think
that.
there's a lot of pressure on these guys. I've lived that. I mean, there's an immense amount of pressure that goes with being a Cup driver, and when you are in the position of being a two-time champion like Joey Logano, and the expectations are as high as they are, not only put on by himself but by everybody else around him, right? Because there's a different value to a guy that's expected to win, that's won a couple championships and put those pieces together year after year after year. And when you're in that position to where you don't put those pieces together, that pressure starts to build, and especially as we get closer and closer to that cutoff date. So you could see the emotion just with, how many times he wiped his face and turned around, and just the awkwardness of the interview wasn't the typical Joey Logano interview. I mean, you could see the emotion and the relief in his interview after the race.
So let me ask you. So Penske went from, or especially early on in the year, the only one that was running well was the 12, was Blaney. We felt like he was consistent, but it wasn't like dominating speed. We go to all these tracks that we talked about last week, off throttle tracks, using some brake, having to slow down and shift, and they have all won. Logano's won, Blaney's won, and Cindric's won. So now Penske has all three. And what does that change your view on the company, or do you still think that they aren't fast at enough of the other tracks?
Yeah, well, I think Blaney was the fastest car this weekend of their crowd, and he wasn't a winning contending car.
He's about 6, right?
Yeah, I didn't think he was winning contending. And I actually talked to Ryan about this last week. He came out to the summer shootout and was hanging out with Bubba and came by and said hi. And I asked him, I said, where are you at? And he said, well, we'll find out when we get to some of these bigger racetracks. And I think if they can run 5th or 6th at the Nashvilles, the mile-and-a-half racetracks, those types of places, I think they're going to be in contention.
Yeah.
Hey, race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News, content, and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.